Hi, and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Accountant. Today we have podcast royalty, author and accountant. It's none other than Lucy Cohen, co-founder of Mazuma Accounting. Hi, Lucy. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. Nice to see you.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you how having a co-founder for Mazuma benefited you in your experience.
Yeah, so Sophie, who's my co-founder and best friend, and we have been best friends since we were 11. We went to high school together, so we've known each other a very, very long time. And I work best in collaboration with other people. So we always sort of joke that I need an audience. Like, I'm no good left to my own devices. I need someone to kind of show off in front of me. I need an audience. She works best kind of in tandem with that. So my mum describes this as kind of like opposite sides of the same coin. So we're both kind of approaching the same goal, but from very different ways. And it means we always kind of reach a good solution to it. So I'm like, let's spend all the money. And she's like, no, Lucy, let's not spend the money. Let's like think about this sensibly. So yeah, it works really well for us. It's something that can be quite tricky, especially to working with a friend. And I think you just have to be really clear on who's doing what and what your boundaries are. You know, neither of us try and step on each other's toes in terms of who does what work. We're very clear about who does what. I sit much more on the kind of the brand, the marketing, that kind of side of the business, commercial side, and Sophie sits much more on the kind of financial and technical and technology side of things. And kind of never the twain shall meet. We kind of, apart from when we're kind of discussing strategy, putting budgets together, or at board meetings, we kind of don't get involved in each other's work unless the other one asks for input. And that works really nicely. We've always been very clear about who does what, and I think that means it works. And also, we're just such different people. You know, we approach things so differently that naturally we'd fall to doing different things. And I think that's why it works really nicely. In terms of having a co-founder, it's a massive comfort because there's always one of you who's having a wobble. So it's nice to have the other one going, it'll be like having a cheerleader. It's going to be fine. You can do this. Like, it's going to be great. We can do it. You know what, running a business is lonely. It can be really lonely out there. And having a co-founder, kind of someone in your corner, is really good.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Like, from the sounds of it, you really balance each other out.
Yeah.
And like just having a soundboard, as you said, like just being able to be like, oh, I'm having a stinker today, and that's getting you out of that hole. It's really, really nice. And it's fortunate because I think most people probably start as sole practitioners, you know. And so whilst you guys have got that balance of like, as you say, marketing, branding, and the technical side of things, a lot of people probably start off without that, and it's really, I think it's really difficult to wear all those hats at the same time, especially ones that you're so not used to wearing. You've been a technician, you've been an accountant behind, you know, the numbers and all that kind of stuff, and suddenly, you know, people who are looking to get into this as a business, like, they have to kind of go into understand what marketing is all about, how sales funnels work, how, you know, paid ads work, and how to build a team, or you know, do we need an office, all that kind of stuff. It's really like, it's almost like so overwhelming. So I mean, you did have the benefit of having a co-founder, but what would you say to somebody like who is kind of a sole practitioner looking to start with? How would you say would be a good way to balance all of those things out?
Find your tribe. Find your community. So accountants are much more willing nowadays to help each other than they used to be. There are loads of online communities of like-minded people who you can create a safe space with. You know, what you don't want is anything you say to be used against you commercially. And I'd hope that we've all got enough integrity not to do that, to recognize other people's vulnerabilities. But find a safe space, Chatham House rules, create a mastermind group, and share with other people. The most beneficial things I used to find, sometimes I'd meet up with even other business owners, and we'd like go out for lunch or something, or go out for a drink and chat about kind of business, and you'd realize that the problems that you feel like are burying you and that you're drowning in, and that you think, how is this happening to me, happen to everybody. Like, it is the wild west out there when it comes to business, and nothing that has happened to you it will be unique, or if it is unique, I can guarantee someone else has had something just as wild happen to them. And there's massive comfort in hearing other people's war stories. you need a safe space to share your war stories, to share your fears and share your anxieties, not just somewhere to shout about the good stuff. And I think we've seen kind of people be a lot more open about, you know, what a bad day looks like and what challenges they face. And that's so healthy, because running a business is hard. Running an accountancy practice is hard, and it's especially hard in accountancy because you've got this kind of thing of, well, I'm supposed to be professional, I'm supposed to be the expert. If I don't know how to do this, why would my clients believe me? But just remember that, you know, if you have a client complaint or someone yelling at you, it's happened to everybody. You know, it's going to happen. Don't panic, and don't judge other people when you see it happen to them. Just know that it's definitely going to happen to you at some point. And like you said, when you've had an absolute stinker of a day, find your tribe, find people who you can share that stuff with, and create a safe space. And it just feels a lot better. Like I said, it can be really lonely out there. Just find people you can share those moments with. And also remember that in 5 years' time, you'll wish you had today's problems. Like, the number of times that I look back, I'm like, oh, I wish I had last year's problems. Like, they seemed so easy compared to this year. And that it always goes like this. So in 5 years' time, you will wish you had the problems of 5 years ago. And also, you know, I have got this kind of rule that when things are happening and things feel bad, or you have a kind of slightly stressy day and you feel a bit kind of burdened, I'm like, is this going to matter in 5 years? And if it's not going to matter in 5 years, try and let go of it, because it's not worth holding on to. You can't carry that around for 5 years.
It always feels horrible at the time though, doesn't it? Like, you're just like, oh, you need to put your head in the ground somewhere. But as you say, like, you know, it's actually in the grand scheme of things, like, nothing's happened. We don't work on the front line. We're not like dealing with, you know, life and death situations for the most 99.9% of the time.
There's very little that can't be fixed in tax.
Exactly. So, you know, we need to just relax, know that it can all be fixed, and you said, like, find your tribe and know that there's a lot of people everyone's basically made the same mistakes, and there are people who can kind of help you and figure it all out. It's really nice, really, really lovely words, really comforting words, a lot of wisdom in there. Thanks very much. I'm sure our listeners are going to love that, because it is a difficult place and it is a lonely place, and it can be really stressful, and it's just about sort of like stepping back and getting a little bit of perspective on the thing, and then kind of almost going back to what we were saying before, like, this is just one part of your life, like, don't let it like take over. I know, and I think it's very, very easy for that to just happen naturally.
It's because you care. It overwhelms you because you care deeply about your clients, you care deeply about your business, and that's brilliant. It's amazing that you care, but sometimes you just have to care less. Really, you have to just care a little bit less,
right?
For your own sanity. You can't carry everybody else's burdens all the time. You can't. No,
definitely. That's something I'm learning slowly but surely, because I've had those moments.
I still have those moments. We're all still learning, all of us.
And we will carry on learning. It's
the journey, isn't it? It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of like circling back to Mazuma a little bit, tell me a little bit about, like, the brand culture that you guys created around stress-free accounting. I know you have, like, family members who are creatives, and the stresses that go along with doing your taxes when you're when you're not so familiar with accounting and tax and stuff. So how did you come about creating that?
So my birthday's in January. Everyone make a note and send me a card. My birthday's in January, and it used to really annoy me. But in January, because it's after Christmas as well, although we're Jewish, but whatever. It's after Christmas, and it's in January, and it was always like, I want this for my birthday. And it was like, oh, well, you know, I've got to go to the accountant, so we'll have to see what the tax bill is first. So basically, I just never wanted another child to suffer with having a January birthday and tax being an issue. So that's really where it came from. And it came from seeing my family be amazing at what they do, but terrible at books. I'm like, why would you be an incredible composer but also brilliant at tax? Like, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know what Beethoven was like with his tax returns, but probably not great. You know, so it just came from that, and it came from kind of recognizing that people have talents and you need to play to your strengths always. So when I was doing my qualifications, I was kind of, this was sort of always in the back of my head, and I'm too strong-willed to always work for other people, and I joke, I'm completely unemployable now. No one's ever going to employ me again. And it's no one wants to. This is a handful. But it's about you're playing to your strength, and it's just really seeing that there wasn't anything in the market at the time. There wasn't anything for sole traders, micro businesses, kind of freelancers. There wasn't anything there that kind of didn't fall into this kind of very old school model of accountancy. And so that's where we came up with purple envelopes. And it didn't start off as going, I'm going to set up a subscription accountancy service. It started off with, I like to know how much money I have. So I like to have a regular recurring income, massive fan of recurring income business models. They make me very happy. So I was like, right, I'm going to figure out a way. So I've got people paying me a set amount of money every month. So I know I can pay my own bills without having the stress of, again, the creative life of kind of feast and famine. I didn't want that. So setting that up and then going, right, well, they're going to pay me something monthly. I've got to do something monthly. Wouldn't it be great if they had a bit of visibility about what their tax position was like? I've not got a kind of bottleneck of work at one point in the year, because again, I don't really like being stressed out. I like everything to be kind of level and know what my workload is going to be, so I can kind of plan it. And it was like, right, I'm going to get people to send things to me in a purple envelope, and then I can do all the bookkeeping, and then I can send it back, and then we'll just do that. And that's literally how it came about. There was no rationale for the color purple. It was a bright color, and the envelopes were cheaper than the other colored envelopes, and that's why the purple envelopes came about.
It's regal. I like it. And it's got good connotations. Dairy milk, I think.
I think it's a happy color. I think it's a nice happy color. It's a happy, cheerful color. Yeah.
Definitely. I think you picked a good one.
Thanks.
And
so
the concept is good though as well, like, because it's sort of like taking that thing of stepping up and taking responsibility where other people may not know how to do it. You've just gone, do you know what, leave it to me, like I'll sort you out, just chuck it in the envelope and I'll do that. And that's, I think something that accountants may be for the most part a bit reluctant, and they huff and puff and like, oh, I've got this shoebox. And I get it, because I don't like receiving shoeboxes either. No. But you change your mentality and you're like, actually, this is my job, this is what I'm here to do, and I'm helping people because they need it.
Yeah.
Like this, and again, it's like to do with that thing of just removing the frictions, because if I don't want to do it and you don't want to do it, no one's going to do it, and we're going to get to the 31st of January and we're going to be rushing around and you're not going to get a birthday present, and
it's going to suck, so we don't want that.
So I think you've definitely fixed the world for the better. Good. And for yourself.
Yeah, I was just about making my life easier. Everything I do, we've got a kind of, it's my business partner, Sophie, it's her phrase actually. We've got a little phrase, which is the importance of being lazy. Like, how quickly, how efficiently can we get from point A to point B? Like, and that's everything we do, is about how can we get from here to here in as few steps as possible. Like, there's no unnecessary, I hate faff. There's no faffing around. And that's kind of what we build.
Least resistance, right?
Absolutely. Why would I want to make life hard for myself?
But sometimes, like, you don't think of the path of least resistance. You're just like, oh, these are the things I have to do. It takes a little bit of thinking to be like, if I cut that out, don't do that, then we can get some. And that's kind of like what you've done here. You've just accepted things for what they are and found that path and really streamlined it and made it work and built a fantastic business around it. So well done.
Thanks.
Carry on.
Thanks.
And you kind of sort of spoken about a little bit already, like how you guys do stuff subscription based. It's kind of commoditizing accountancy services, which I think we haven't really seen, probably not when you started, but you guys did this, you started this in 2006, which for me seems like quite a long time ago, before we really consume things the way that we do, in that same sense. Like, I think now everybody's very much used to that, pick a package, pick a monthly, and this is what it's going to cost you. You kind of seem to have got ahead of the game there, either through good fortune or good foresight, whichever, it doesn't really matter now, but you've done it. And you've kind of like hit on this thing that's a super popular and effective way of doing things. I guess the question I was going to ask was, because it all sounds really, really good. And it sounds like, I've got guaranteed income. It's kind of steady across the year. It's transparent. People know what they're going to get. I can scale it up and down depending on, how seasonal or the seasonality of the client and all that. But I guess for somebody who's starting out, and I think a lot of our listeners are those sorts of people, how would you sort of like go about setting those packages, and also the practicalities of receiving monthly amounts? Because I would talk about us, like our practice, we bill annually, and
Yeah.
though it seems like, oh, this is a big chunk of money that we're billing people, practically, like, it's easier to collect big chunks of money than it is to
Yeah.
spread them out. So how would you sort of go about that, and whether you think there's any sort of downsides of the subscription base?
I mean, yeah, the downsides are that you're not getting you don't get to play on the seasonality stuff of having like big amounts of cash. You'll very rarely get big influxes of cash. So if you're kind of planning capex spend or big developments and stuff like that, you've either got to save that money or finance it somewhere else, because getting big chunks of cash in doesn't really happen on subscription. So it's all about the slow burn. You've got to be patient. You've got to be persistent. And it's just all about knowing that subscription is a slow burn. So the pros are that, if one client leaves, you're not decimated, your income's not decimated. But the cons are it takes a lot of, 28 or £50 a month to get yourself up to good income. So you just have to be patient and stick with it, and know if that's the model you want to go down, that there's a lead time. If that is a model you want to play with, then it's going to take a while for it to kind of reach fruition or saturation point. But when it does hit that point, it's much easier to sort of maintain. So it depends on it's really how you want to play it. I hate the kind of feast and famine cycle. So for me, I'd have much rather taken that kind of, you haven't got the hockey stick like you get in kind of the traditional thing. You've got it's a much more of a slow burn. It's much easier nowadays to collect money via subscription than it was when we started. Go Cardless and other payment providers like that weren't around. We barely had PayPal. So in terms of the technology you have at your fingertips to be able to set up recurring payments, much easier. And there's all kinds of ways you can do that now, so it is much easier. But if you're setting up a subscription model, you just have to be, for subscription, if you're going on the volume basis, like we work on high volume, low fee, you've got to be razor focused on what you're delivering, how you're delivering it, and you do not deviate from that model. You don't go, oh, go on then, I'll do it slightly differently for you. It's all about having that very regimented structure in terms of what you do, because that's where your profit is. If you don't do that, then you lose money. So you have to have systems. You have to be the sort of person who's very highly systemized. You have to be always thinking about how to get from here to here in the least amount of clicks. You constantly, you can't be the sort of person who falls into the whole, well, we've always done it that way, so that's how we're going to do it. You have to be a sort of person who's constantly challenging, first of all, to keep the efficiencies for yourself, but second of all, to keep up with competition, because if you have a good idea, there are 15 people snapping at your heels with that idea behind you. So if you're not that kind of person, subscription models are probably not for you. Doesn't mean you can't do some kind of retainer, doesn't mean you can't do some kind of fixed fee, but that kind of subscription in the truest sense of the word probably isn't there for you. A lot of the firms I see, especially smaller firms or people starting up, kind of employ a bit of both, and a lot of the ones I talk to, that works really nicely. So they have certain services that people pay for monthly, maybe they have a certain amount of support time, they have support packages that people pay for monthly, and then additional work is done as projects and add-ons and billed separately. That works really nicely because you kind of get the benefit of both there. So I think that's, if you're just starting out, that's a nice model until you kind of figure out which thing you like best. And we started out, we definitely took on work we shouldn't have done. It didn't suit our model, and it put us back. So yeah, you kind of got to stick to your guns with a subscription and just kind of ride it out.
Wicked. That was such a good little crash course on subscription based.
Sorry, I just went off on one then. I zoned out.
That's exactly what I wanted, because I had questions lined up and you just covered them all off. So that was amazing.
Done.
Yes. In
Subscriptions tick.
Job done. You're making my job so easy today. Thank you. That's so good. But yeah, like it's interesting because you kind of you're talking about the efficiencies of being regimented and having this system and automation, and however you're going to do it. That's, as you said, that's where your profits lie.
Yeah.
Like thinking about this the other day when I knew I was going to speak to you, and I was like, do you think that accountancy services are kind of being polarized between that style, that kind of like online accountancy subscription-based style, like yourselves? I don't know if I'm allowed to drop names, like I don't know what Crunch do, but I assume it's like a similar kind of similar kind of thing. to like the other side, which is like a hyper bespoke service where you're pretty much like in the room with the director, helping them, holding their hand through everything. Because I feel like, and I don't think that lends itself to subscription based at all.
No,
Maybe
it doesn't. It doesn't.
But I think that's like, I think if I'm kind of in the middle at the moment. I think if I have to choose a direction, I'm probably going to go that way.
Yeah.
And it's scary because it's completely different, and it's, you know, you're choosing your one end of the spectrum or the other. But do you think you kind of have to nowadays, like rather than being in the middle?
I mean, you don't have to, but it's about what you want out of it. You know, it's hard to have a business that can support two entirely separate business models, because the type of skill set you need and the staff you need to service a subscription model is different to the type of staff and skill set you need to serve that kind of boutique model. And so it's just a different skill set and a different set of people. So I mean, maybe you've got a business that can handle that, and that's great, in which case you could do both. But if it's just you and a couple of other people, you'd probably want to pick a lane and be really good at it. And I'm a massive believer in doing one thing well. You know, we know what we do and we do one thing well. And people are always asking, oh, you're going to add this on, you're going to add this service, that service. And I'm like, no, we do one thing well. This is what we do. And until we need to change that, or we genuinely see another opportunity, we'll continue to do it, and we'll just keep getting better at it. I think that kind of the rise of technology and the tools we have out there, and the accessibility and the ease with which we can capture data, means that subscription models potentially are more viable for more people than they used to be.
So make sure you catch every episode, subscribe to the channel, or sign up to the Sage Advice newsletter at the bottom of the page.